Welcome, everyone, to AEW Unrestricted, the official podcast of All Elite Wrestling. We've got Aubrey Edwards, we've got Tony Schiavone here with you in another week, coming to your ear holes or your eye holes if you're watching on YouTube. How you doing, Tony? How many monsters have you had today?
2. I was thinking about having a third one, but...
Of course, because they're basically like water for you.
They're basically like water. By the way, do want to let you know that the bug is not here right now, which means he'll come staggering up the steps in a few moments and stare at me until I put him on his throne. So
the last one we recorded, he was taking up all your time, being an asshole, and now he left. He's gonna be an asshole in the middle of this. Where does he get all this from?
Well, that's the way Chihuahuas are. You see.
Okay.
They run the house. So,
I just have cats and they don't give a fuck about me. So there you go.
Yeah.
Anyway. Person who I give a fuck about.
Wow.
that was a horrible segue. But very, very happy to have Madison Rayne on today. Madison is one of our recent hires, one of our new coaches backstage. She's also just one of the most smiley and bubbly people I've ever met. And I love, love, love having her energy backstage and her willingness to do pretty much anything. She is a self-described dog mom, a gymnastics mom, a boy band fanatic, and a dessert connoisseur. Welcome to the podcast, Madison.
Hey, thanks for that intro. That pretty much sums it up. Like, there's not a whole lot more to me. Coach, mom, creme brulee connoisseur. That's it.
Creme brulee.
Wow, very cool.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah. It's some people believe that creme brulee is like how you define how good a dessert is at a restaurant. So that's a high bar.
Well, I didn't know. Apparently, I didn't get out much before I met my husband. He introduced me to like he told me one time we were in the Nashville airport. We were flying somewhere, and I usually just stroll through the airport and grab like a bag of peanuts or whatever. But Nashville airport had this real nice like sushi like stand. So I don't know how fresh the sushi was, but it was sushi nonetheless, right? So it was like 8 a.m. and we were walking through the airport. I'm like, let's go get sushi and mimosas. And he's like, pretty sure when I met you, you were drinking beer out of a can, and here we are. You're making me drink mimosas at 8 a.m. and eat sashimi. So, like, he's introduced me to the finer things in life, creme brulee being one of them.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with beer out of a can. I'm just saying. You can have
both. It's all a fun time, right?
Yeah, it sounds to me like this is kind of the opposite of me and Lois. She introduced me to the finest things in life, and so that's weird.
I feel like that's usually how it is. Like, we're the exception to the rule. Josh is like, he loves to clean and loves to cook. And I'm like, good job. You're doing a great job.
Well, you've hit the lottery, girl.
I really did. I really did.
That's good. All right. So you were Impact Knockouts champion 5 times, World Tag Team Champions Impact Knockouts champion 3 times, Shimmer Tag Team Champs, OCW Women's Championship twice, and TNA Queen of the Knockouts in 2014.
Damn.
And that's only a partial list of what you have done in wrestling. So bringing you in as one of the coaches brings in a person, lady who knows what she's doing and has the background. And I wanted to first talk about bringing you in to AEW. How did that all start out? Tell us the story behind that.
It was literally like such a whirlwind. Like, I'm not sure what the traditional process is, but I feel like mine was anything but.
I mean, it's wrestling, so nothing's traditional.
Nothing's traditional, and you should expect complete chaos in all things. So
100%.
I saw that AEW was coming to Columbus, which is my hometown. I haven't wrestled here in, when I say years, like many, many years. At least not to a capacity where like my friends were there, my family was there. I've talked a little bit about my dad is very, very ill right now, stage 4 cancer. So like when I saw that advertised, my only thought was like, wrestling's this weird but awesome world now. And even though I had been working for one company, like I kind of want to do this, and I'm within the parameters of being allowed to do this. And for all of those reasons, right? Like I've had a lot of career moments, but I felt like that was one that I needed. And so I reached out to a couple of people, and the response seemed positive, but probably with everything, but definitely in wrestling, it's like a hurry up and wait type situation, right?
Yeah.
Every day.
But then once the hurry up and wait is over, then it's like, hurry up and get this done, and it's time to do it right now. So it was literally just like perfect timing. And I had spoken with some people, and before I knew it, like I was talking to Mega, and she was kind of outlining the opportunity for me. And I was just like, I've read plenty of wrestling contracts in my life. Just send it to me. I know where to sign. Like, let's get this done. And it literally kind of just happened that quickly and easily. So for my first week at AEW, I was like, okay, when does everything fall apart here? Like, when does Ashton come in and say, no, sorry, you're being punked. This isn't really happening, because it was just so seamless and easy. And my first day, I walked into like the most overwhelming, like positive response, and everyone was so nice and welcoming. And it had been so long since I was like a new kid on a playground. So I was feeling all the new kid on the playground feelings of like, not sure what to do with my hands, but everybody was so accommodating and so nice. And it's been the best month of my career, honestly.
Wow. Very good.
Super awesome.
That's tremendous. Well, because as you know, it can get crazy backstage.
Yep.
And I got news for you. Going to get crazier. But do you know what? That's the wrestling business, Madison, right? I mean, it's just crazy.
It is. And I think like if you anticipate that and you know that, then even the unexpected is like somewhat expected.
Right.
And so therefore, like when I'm home, I try to be like zero stress, even though there's a 9-year-old, 3 dogs, and a newly added chinchilla in my house. Like somehow that's my controlled chaos. And I just like survive in that calm and then go to work and expect whatever crazy is headed my way.
Oh yeah. It's definitely one of those come into work. It's like, what are you doing today? Not sure. I'll find out eventually.
And it'll be great.
Figure it out. And then when you find out, they're like, why don't you have this done yet? Because I just found out. Give me 5 minutes. We're going to do this. It's going to be great.
And it's going to be great because I don't have time to overthink it.
Yeah. I remember reading the email. I think it was the morning in Columbus, basically outlining all of the new promotions from people. And then it's just like, oh, and we've also hired Madison Rayne as a coach for the women's division. I'm like, yes, this is awesome. And I think I was in a car headed to the venue with like Vicky and Sunny. And we're just immediately like, yes, this is great. This is wonderful. This is the person we needed. This is awesome. So the kindness and the happiness that you felt on day one was definitely genuine. We all felt that before we got to the venue. Don't think that we're just like doing that just to make you feel good. It's like, no, I'm very, very happy you're here. And
well, that makes me happy. Thank you.
It's already great to see sort of the impact that you're making, and being like, I've definitely been spying, like watching over your shoulder when you're coaching stuff. I was like, oh yeah, no, she's good. This is what she needs. Anyway, let me stop putting you over and ask more questions.
Let me start burying you now.
Yeah, it's like, here, let me just talk about how great you are for 45 minutes. That's fine. So you come in as a coach, you know you're going to be a coach, and then suddenly you find out, oh, hey, you're going to wrestle Jade Cargill for the TBS Championship. How did that whole happen, and how did that feel?
Again, like you walk in and every day and you don't really know what's going to happen. When I had my initial conversations about coming to the company, it was primarily as a coach. And then obviously there were those like, and then, you know, like, we know you can wrestle, you've wrestled for way too long. So there may be times where we have you as an in-ring competitor. I'm like, great. Like, you know, the wrestler in me who still has like a teeny tiny shred of ego that needs to be filled a little bit, like walking out into an arena that's that full with the reaction of the AEW fans is truly like, and I'm not just saying that because I'm new and happy and butterflies, but it's truly unlike anything that I've ever felt. So getting to kind of scratch that itch a little bit was perfect, but I do think going forward, it will be like my duty will primarily be as coach. And I think that's great too, because I came in, I did a couple matches for anybody, AEW fans or anybody who wasn't super familiar with who Madison Rayne was. Now I've like gotten in the ring. I've shown you that I kind of know how to do this thing. So hopefully that will, I will have earned the trust of the people who maybe didn't know me before I came in. So I'm glad that I got to do that. Always happy to accept a challenge, and will continue to accept them if they're ever like put in front of me. But I think for now, as far as I know today, as we sit here, coaching is going to be kind of my primary role.
We're talking with Madison Rayne. You're listening to AEW Unrestricted. And Madison, you had two older brothers that got you interested in wrestling. We understand you actually wrestled your brothers as a kid, right?
I mean, I tried. My brothers are 11 and 7 years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so they always watched wrestling with my dad when I was young. And so, like, being the annoying little sister, only girl in the family, the baby, I had to weasel my way into situations where I could hang out and bond with them. And it was wrestling and it was baseball. So I would go play catch with my brothers in the backyard. And then Saturday mornings were usually the days that I would wake up to them like chasing each other all over the house and like beating on each other, because that's what they saw throughout the week on wrestling. So then I would usually pick a team and pick a brother and jump in on the fun. And they knew they couldn't actually hurt me because I'd go and tell mom. So it benefited me in a lot of ways. It started my wrestling career before I knew it. And then I was also babied and could get out whenever I wanted.
A true heel. I like this. Like, can't beat me up. I'll go tell mom. Oh, man. It's the best built-in manager ever. All right. So that's always fun and interesting hearing like people having their how they get into wrestling. So you were a straight A student, and then you dropped out of college to become a wrestler.
Yeah. So
why? How?
Why? Yeah. I mean, you know, why do we all do the things we do? I was not a straight A student in high school. I was a like low B, like if I got a C, I was still like, hey, that's passing student. But I ran track. I was a cheerleader. I played softball. My senior year, I needed an art class, so I was in drama club. And that was kind of when I realized, oh, I really like the spotlight. Like this works for me. I had also dabbled in pageants as a kid. So like, again, I feel like all of the stars were just alighting throughout my life, and I didn't realize it at the time. But when I graduated high school, I just went to a community college. And I wanted to be a nurse. My mom's been a nurse like my entire life. But there was not much of an athletic program at the community college. So I started training to do a fitness competition and walked into the gym in my like small farm town in Ohio that I grew up in. And I saw a flyer for a local independent wrestling show. And I was like, this is something that I need to do. And I showed up to the guys' wrestling school and I walked in and I was just like, hey, I want to try. Like, how do I do this? And they all looked at me like I had 10 heads because no female had gone through the school at that point. So thankfully they took me in and it worked. And I told my parents I don't have time right now to finish my degree in nursing, that I currently have a 4.0 going for me in, but I'll come back to it. I got to go be a wrestler first.
And I think I misspoke earlier. I said it was Ohio Valley, but it was Ohio Championship Wrestling, right, that you started in?
Yeah, that's where I trained. That was like my home promotion.
Right.
2-time women's champion there. So
right. Very cool. All right. We're talking with Madison Rayne, and we'll be talking more with her about her early parts of her career when we continue on Unrestricted.
This is AEW Unrestricted. Tony and Aubrey talking to the wonderful and amazing Madison Rayne, recent hire, coach, longtime wrestler, legendary in this business. And I feel like you're only just now getting started, even with all the other stuff you've done. So we touched a little bit before about Ohio Championship Wrestling, how you got your start, random indie flyer at a gym popping in. So you had your first ever wrestling match at your former high school in Ohio. You were actually reffed by WWE diva Ivory.
Yes. And that didn't all come together until literally like 2 days before the show. So
like wrestling.
as I'm repeating all of these stories, I was like, oh, that totally makes sense now. Like, oh, that totally makes sense now. 24 hours before is when I like found out for sure that she was coming. And I'm like terrified, right? I'm 19 years old. My entire, like, all of the teachers that taught me in high school were there. All of my friends and family were there. And my opponent was also having her first match.
Oh, no.
So this thing had the potential to go off the rails, like from Jump Street. And then, God bless her, Ivory came in after we had spent weeks preparing for this match. And she was like listening to it. And she's like, can I make a few small changes? And I was like, I don't know how to make small changes, but sure. Yeah, absolutely, please. And she was a like lifesaver. She spoke to both of us throughout the entire thing. Like, she was amazing. And literally, she was the beginning of my understanding of like how vital a referee is to our job. And it's the truest thing. And in any seminar or anything I've ever done, I've said that because sorry.
That's all right.
Whatever.
We love dogs.
But yeah, she was fantastic. And stop it. She guided us through that match and made us look like it wasn't our first day on the job. And it was like the most amazing first match that I could have ever asked for.
Oh.
You got a sassy dog there. You said stop and he went, roof.
3 of them. 3. All girls, all like the most rotten personalities. I don't know how I exist here.
I want to talk about the origins of the being called Madison Rayne. You were Ashley Lane, Lexi Lane. How did Madison Rayne come about and all that?
I showed up for my first day at TNA and they said, this is what you're going to be called.
Well.
But honestly, like it worked out too. I sound like such a broken record because at the time, there was a little girl that lived next door to me and I used to babysit her when I was a kid. And like, she was my little buddy, like my little sister, and her name is Madison.
Oh.
And my niece, her middle name is Rayne. And so it was just like total happenstance that it all like came together. Yeah. And her name is even spelled Rayne. So, yeah. So I just told them that it was like a hybrid of their names and that's where it came from.
Oh my God. I love it. It's like, oh yeah, no, I did this for you, even though it's like randomly given to you
right.
by a creative team. Oh my God. That's incredible. All right. 2007, joined Shimmer, become the first ever Shimmer tag team champion. What was that like? Because for me, like Shimmer is sort of has this history of like, if you wanted to be a name in women's wrestling, like you had to go through Shimmer. So that's a pretty big accomplishment.
Mm-hmm. And Dave Prazak brought me into Shimmer, probably wonderful human being. Mm-hmm. Brought me in way before I had any business being there. Like I was still new and you know, I'd wrestled for 2 years, but that doesn't equate to many, many matches. Like in Ohio, it's not like we're working every weekend and I was getting a lot of experience. Usually I was wrestling for my home promotion with people that I knew. Like I hadn't ventured out much. So this was a whole brand new world for me. And so every time I went to Shimmer, I had those like big match feelings because I had no idea what I was stepping into. And, then I started tagging with one of my closest friends at the time, Nevaeh, and we are such good friends outside of the ring, and it really just kind of transcended to being a great tag team inside the ring. And I think it works so well for us because she is such a solid wrestler, like could out wrestle me any day of the week, still probably true to this day. But I was in drama club. I was a cheerleader, like personality and give me a microphone and I'll go for however long you need me to. So like our dynamics together just came into this like perfect package. And we didn't know, like nobody had told us beforehand that we were going to win the titles. We just knew that we were part of the tournament with all of these fantastic tag teams who had been established at Shimmer for years. And then when we found out, we were like, is anybody mad at us? Do we need to go say sorry? How do we handle this? I don't know what to do with this.
Do we have heat? Do we have heat? How do we handle the heat?
But it was such a fantastic learning experience because it was literally just like they threw us into the deep end and we had 3 matches to plan over the course of one day. And my 2 years in brain was just exploding. But it was so much fun. Like, then that was the first time that I actually was able to chill out and just listen because I didn't know what was happening. So listening was my only option. And it resulted in like these amazing matches that were all different and unique and fun. And, Dave was always good at choosing champions and having a reason for it. Right. And in that moment, at that time, the Shimmer tag team titles were brand new. So were we. So like we were growing with these titles, and it was a cool time for us for sure. And it was when Shimmer was kind of like at its height too. So it was definitely like great timing.
You go to TNA in 2009, become a part of the Beautiful People with Angelina Love and Velvet Sky. Talk about being together, the three of you.
Yeah, I had met Angelina one time prior to that at an independent show that we were on together. Had never met Velvet, and they were this already established team, like wildly successful team, and they had Cute Kip with them at the time. And when I came to TNA, I had never ever wrestled or had any kind of like heelish personality because I was 22 and blonde and tiny and like the stereotypical baby face at the time. And so not only am I thrown into this wildly successful, already established faction, now I'm also learning how to be a heel on TV. But it was the most amazing experience. Like Kip and the girls and everybody that worked there just kind of embraced it with me and like really helped me grow into that character. And then from there, once I kind of got comfortable and realized that being mean is fun when it's your job, it all kind of took off from there.
It's kind of great because I find more often than not, the best heels in wrestling are always actually the nicest people behind the scenes.
Yes. Didn't we just talk about this in the locker room? Like I had heard for years that the best characters are just your personality and your person elevated and multiplied by 100. But I kind of think the opposite. Like I play devil's advocate on that. Like actually, I try to at least believe most days I'm a decent human being. So then when I get to go out and just be this arrogant, cocky, like heel that people love to hate, it's so much fun to be something completely opposite of what I am day to day.
Yeah. I get that. I really do, because to me throughout history, and I'm going to go back a long time ago. Okay.
Well, because you're old.
Yes, I am. But back when I started in the in the 80s, the heels were the nicest guys behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. They were, and they just loved to go out, being good guys in real life, just loved to go out and be something totally different than they really were.
It's fun.
Yeah, I get that.
I think it's a nice way to just get out and blow off steam so that you can keep that nice, calm, bubbly personality. So it's like, all right, here's where I can be an asshole, compartmentalize it,
yes,
and then go back to being a good person.
When somebody cuts me off on the highway, I'm like, all right, I'm going to reserve my anger for when I go to work. Right?
Oh, I love it.
Handle it all then. Only
in wrestling can you say, I'm going to reserve all my anger for work.
Right.
Like, what kind of world do we live in? All right, back to Impact. You had a 14-year combined run there, which is crazy. You're also only one of 4 women to hold the championship 5 times. So congratulations. Absolutely insane. And then you left Impact in 2018. Talk about the decision to retire from Impact at that point.
Geez, how many times have I retired and come back? The internet is.
That's a story of wrestling, right?
Yeah. So I first left in 2013 because I decided that I was going to be a mommy and I was going to explore that world. And at the said this many times. If I'm wrong about this, somebody on Twitter will let me know. But as of now, nobody has done it. I was the first female wrestler who had a lengthy, successful career on television, stepped away to have a baby, become a mom, and then came back and continued that path and that career. So that's also one of the biggest things, like one of my proudest moments was being able to like come back and do that and continue to build my legacy after going in a totally different direction. But then I left in 2018 because I've always been very cognizant of the fact that like, there is such a thing as overstaying your welcome. And at the time, for a few different reasons, I just felt like that's where I was with Impact. So I left Impact, and in doing that, leaving the thing that was kind of all I knew in terms of like career wrestling, I wondered and second guessed whether or not that meant like I was done wrestling altogether too. But then in 2018, all of these things just happened. All In happened. Mae Young Classic happened. I ended up signing a short-term contract with Ring of Honor. All of this stuff that I had never even thought about doing before because I stepped away and bet on myself for a little bit. And it totally worked out. And I'm glad that I did it. So yeah, that was 2018. And then a couple years ago, I thought about retiring again because I had finally gotten my business degree and thought maybe I would try corporate America. But I quickly realized I'm not cut from the cloth of folks who were successful like that. No, that just wasn't for me.
Right. Yeah. Just a tip from an old man. No one will tell you on Twitter what you don't want to hear if you don't read Twitter.
Right.
Okay.
That's so true. It's so true. Yep.
Just leave it alone, man. Leave it alone. Okay, I'll hire somebody to do mine. Anyway, in my family. 2019, you returned to do commentary for Impact with Josh Mathews, who is your husband. Talk about that decision and what you think about doing what do you think about doing commentary?
So the decision kind of was forced upon us because of the pandemic. And we were just trying at the time, like everybody else, to figure out how to continue working, how to continue earning paychecks and putting food on our tables. And it worked, obviously, because Josh was the play-by-play announcer for Impact. So he already had all of the tools and the setup here to do that. And there was a void that needed filled as far as the color commentary position. And Scott D'Amore called Josh and was like, do you think that she would be into this? Is it something that she's ever mentioned? And right before I had left Impact in 2017 or 2018, I had done some commentary specifically just for knockouts matches. So I had toyed with it a bit, but not to the degree that I was ready to do it every single week for hours each week. And had it not been for Josh and all of his years of experience and, lobbing me softballs and guiding me through how to do that, especially at the beginning until I kind of got a little bit more comfortable and realized how long to talk and how to talk in sound bites and not tell these lengthy stories because obviously I can talk a lot. But there was definitely a learning curve, but I 100%, like I couldn't have learned it and done it to the degree that I did without Josh guiding me.
It's always great to have someone there helping you out, especially when you're falling into the deep end and trying out something new. Super, super awesome. Coming up on AEW Unrestricted.
Times though, like
yeah,
we had
definitely.
We'd finish in the sound studio and then be like, okay, I'll see you in an hour.
Yeah, like bye.
Yeah,
bye. I'm done with you. No, right. I feel it. I feel it. Coming up on AEW Unrestricted, we've got fan questions from Madison Rayne.
You got AEW Unrestricted, the official podcast of All Elite Wrestling. Tony Schiavone, Aubrey Edwards, and our guest this week has been Madison Rayne. Before we get there, you're a band boy fanatic? NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, 98 Degrees. What do you got here?
Yeah, all of them, all of the above. I would say I used to be, but now if I'm driving in the car, and especially the last month or so, because I've been pretty lucky, and most of our live TVs have been within driving distance for me. So during the day when I'm driving too, I listen to like my true crime podcast. But then at midnight when it's dark and I'm driving alone, I opt for something a little lighter hearted. And my boy band of choice is, I'm going to lose so many friends and fans over this one, but my boy band of choice has always been Hanson.
I support it. I support it. Little known fact, huge Hanson mark as a kid.
All over the wall, and like that was me. Yeah, but I'll take any of them. 98 Degrees, New Kids on the Block, Backstreet Boys. Like, I know I'm losing so many cool points right now, but hey.
Too much estrogen in this room for me, guys. Woo!
You shut your mouth. You shut your mouth. Okay. Fan questions. Let's do it.
All right, go ahead.
All right, let me see. Let's find a good one. Ooh, okay. Question from Kevin Merrill. Who was the first woman you wanted to work with once becoming All Elite, either in the ring or backstage?
Yeah, on day one, walking in, seeing so many familiar faces was so nice. Like from talent to office to crew, even like these are all faces and folks that I've crossed paths with previously. So it was nice to see all of these people, and some of the girls that I've worked with in the ring before, like, hey, maybe someday down the road we get to revisit that thing we did. But I've never been in the ring with Toni Storm. I've never been in the ring with Nyla Rose. So it's literally like all of these dream scenarios in my head started, and like, I would see like Anna Jay or Julia Hart walking down the hallway. I'm like, I feel like me and Julia could really make magic together. And I think that just because I said their names, they are two younger talents that just in this last month, I have like in my brain just thought so many times, they are like the up and coming, like most brightest shining star. Like there's so much potential to some of these younger athletes. And I feel like at this point in my career, those are the matches that I want to have, the matches with younger talent who hopefully I can help elevate. So Julia and Anna are definitely at like very, very high on my list.
Well, the next question was from Anthony Pearson and asking, who do you see as being the next breakout star on the AEW women's roster? And I guess you already answered that. Anybody else you can add to that maybe?
Oh, man. I mean, there's just endless amounts of talent in the locker room, right? Like I feel like people haven't even started to see the depth of Penelope Ford. I can't wait to see Bunny come back, and she's another one who, like, once she really taps in and gets the minutes and the things that she can do with those match minutes are just insane. And it's one of the things that I love about being part of this women's locker room is there's such a deep pool of talent and so many endless opportunities for what the women could do.
Got a question from Mind Runner. How has the women's wrestling landscape changed from the past to today, based on kind of your experience? And what moments do you feel have helped elevate women's wrestling the most?
Oh my gosh. How much longer?
It's okay, just lighthearted questions on AEW.
Yeah, nothing hard hitting here.
Nothing hard hitting.
I feel like, again, like we talked about earlier, I have come into different pockets of different eras of women's wrestling at the most amazing times for growth, like be it Shimmer or when I first came into TNA as a knockout, and I came in the second wave just after the knockouts division was created. So I was literally right in the middle of the inception of a division, and to watch it grow to the catastrophic success that it skyrocketed to almost overnight. I definitely think that was a pivotal moment in women's wrestling history. And, throughout my career, the question has been posed to me, like, do you agree, or do you think that the knockouts are the reason that women's wrestling is as prevalent as it is today? Yes, I think it had a huge role in it. But, I also said that there wouldn't be a Mae Young Classic without there having been Mae Young. And when I was a kid, the first female match that I remember seeing was Bull Nakano and Alundra Blaze just going at it on Monday Night Raw. So I think there were all these little tentpole moments, if you think back over history, that got us to where we are now. But I mean, I guess for me specifically, the biggest moment for me was when I finally was Knockouts champion, and I realized, whoa, this is a big deal. This is something that up to this point, ignorance was bliss, and I didn't realize how important these moments are, and that I get to be a part of it is just now it's finally all soaking in.
To add to another very deep and thoughtful question, Marcy Darcy wants to know, it's Marcy Darcy 13, how do you feel about intergender matches?
For me personally, it's never been something that I have wanted or needed as a bullet point on my resume. Now, with that said, I'm not saying that I don't like them. I'm not saying there's not a time and a place for them. I know that there is a large audience that likes them. And look, it's wrestling, right? This is an art form. We're all artists. We're all creative people. And if there's a creative way to make it make sense, I'm all for wrestling that caters to every fan base. For me personally, it's just not something I'm interested in. I've also, I'm very hyper aware of the things that I do, especially now as a mom. I just think about things through a different perspective. And again, to each their own. I love wrestling. I love all forms of wrestling. That's just not something that I need on my resume.
I loved that answer. I like the thinking about things from a mom's perspective, because
very cool.
We have to kind of think of things from all the different vantage points of who's watching it and who's consuming the media, right?
Right.
I like that. Goalie Girl 99 asks, what was it like working with and wrestling Gail Kim?
I have loved Gail from the moment that we met. When I first came into TNA or Impact, she had left for her second run at WWE. So I didn't meet her until a couple of years into my career. And then within a couple of years after that, especially when I came back from having my daughter, I had my first match. So her birthday was just this past weekend, my daughter's. I had my first match back in December of that year. So I don't know, 6-8 weeks after I had her.
Damn.
And yeah, right. I still don't know how I did it, but and my first feud was with Gail. And it was not just a few wrestling matches. We were having weapons matches, and I think it all finally culminated in a cage match at a Lockdown pay-per-view. So we were really doing it. And I think we were able to do that because she's such a star and such a legend. And, she took this brand new mom and recreated her into a wrestler, not just a wrestler, but a better version of Madison Rayne than I was when I left. And she was somebody that always pushed me. And I think she did it with several of her opponents, pushed us out of our comfort zone to prove to us what we didn't know we could do.
Derek Lockwood wants to know, if you weren't wrestling or coaching, what would you be doing different as a dream?
Probably convincing Josh that we need more land so that I can rescue animals. And
yes.
We've got 3 dogs, we've got a chinchilla, we've had a cat. Every time I see deer run through our backyard, I'm like, is it legal for me to have them? Is that not a thing? We have ducks. How far can we go here in residential property? So probably that. Like I said, I got my business degree and I thought maybe corporate America, but that's not it. So if it wasn't this, it would be some sort of wild, crazy dream.
That's
crazy idea. Business degree, giant land with a bunch of animals, make a petting zoo. Right?
Brilliant.
It's all you. You can take it.
here, okay. Let me play devil's advocate on that. Okay.
Sure.
If I won the lottery, I would have this gigantic rescue farm.
Yes.
Not a rescue center, a rescue farm. If you get a petting zoo, then you got to bring in people, and people are fucked up, and I want to keep them away from it. Okay.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. That's brilliant.
Right.
That's brilliant. There's a dog rescue out in California that I follow on Instagram, and like the work that they do, like it takes a special kind of person to run a rescue, because you see these animals and the things that have happened to them at the hands of human beings, and it makes you like have zero belief in humanity.
Exactly.
But yeah, as far as my heart would let me take it, I would love to have some sort of a rescue or just like a shelter or something for critters.
Yes. You got my heart on that one, girl. You really, really do.
I highly recommend checking out the Best Friends Animal Shelter. I think they're based in Utah, but they have just an enormous amount of land, and they'll just take in animals from like other kill centers and facilities and just raise them. The ones that can go up for adoption, they put them up there. You can go on, you can actually like sponsor specific animals rather than just giving to them as a charity. Like, no, I want to help Fluffy the cat because Fluffy has like these specific medical issues. Yeah, they're a really cool group, and I'm putting them out on the podcast because I think they deserve support. So
well,
yeah.
Sure.
That's what I'm going to spend the rest of my day doing now. They're great.
Cool.
yeah, no, they're super dope. It's
There
one of
goes
those like
all of my money.
right? It's like, oh no, I need to help this cat and this dog and this horse and all of these cool animals. But yeah, anyway.
My work.
So, Miss Ohio, the Joe Tapes asks, are you an Ohio State fan, Cleveland Guardians, Brown, Cavaliers, Columbus Blue Jackets fan? None of that? None of that.
So I'm an Ohio State fan, as much as someone who's never been to an Ohio State game can be. Like my husband is a huge college football guy. So college football will be on my TV from now until January. Yes. And I always like celebrate myself at the end of football season. Like I survived another one. But no, as far as like teams and who I'm an actual loyal fan of, I mentioned baseball and my brothers, and my oldest of my two older brothers was a really, really good baseball player. And he was a big Ryan Sandberg and Chicago Cubs fan. And so from the time that I was young, I have watched the Cubs and been a diehard Cubs fan because of that. So not really a huge Ohio team fan, but like I love to go to a Bengals game, or I'll go to a Blue Jackets game, but I'm not like, we don't have flags and banners and all the things.
Yeah. Did you ever go to a Clippers game?
Love Clippers games. I'll go to many Clippers games in the summer.
Yeah, I've been to Huntington Park many, many, many times.
It's beautiful. The new stadium is just gorgeous.
It's really nice. Well, it's interesting that you said you were a Ohio State Buckeyes fan, because I was wondering, being an SEC guy, if they still played football in the Big Ten. I wasn't sure. Zing! I love to get that in.
But shame on you for that, Tony.
Oh, Madison, thank you very much for being with us. It was great talking to you.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. I enjoy these podcast episodes. I listen to a lot of them, and at Aubrey, we've talked about this, like to help me get to know my new coworkers in a different way than, just meeting in the hallway or chatting about wrestling. So I think this is a fantastic thing that you guys do. And It was one of the first things that I asked you, like, when can I be on the podcast? I love
100%. I think it was the second thing you said, other than, hi, it's so good to see you again. Hey, when am I going to be on the podcast? It's like, oh, okay. She's forward. I like her.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. And we were supposed to do this before, and flight delay and travel and all the things. So I appreciate appreciate you having me on.
Listen, Madison Rayne is at Madison Rayne on Instagram and Twitter. And you can listen and follow this podcast, AEW Unrestricted, for free at Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. With the rest of the important information, here's my good friend Aubrey Edwards.
You can watch AEW Dynamite on TBS Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock, 7 Central. You can watch AEW Rampage on TNT Friday nights at 10 p.m. And, of course, AEW Dark Tuesday nights, AEW Dark Elevation on Mondays, both of which are on YouTube. We're all over the place. You can watch all of our amazing work wherever you can, just like you can get this podcast wherever you can. Anyway, I'm Aubrey Edwards here with my best friend, Tony Schiavone, and my new best friend, Madison Rayne. Thank you so much for listening to AEW Unrestricted.